In 1982, Dungeons & Dragons was a game of attrition. Success was measured by how well you managed resources, avoided traps, and survived the lethal mathematics of the dungeon. The loop was consistent. Players entered a labyrinth, defeated the monsters inside, and hauled out enough gold to earn the experience points required to level up. When TSR published Danger at Dunwater in 1982, it appeared to follow this established framework of subterranean combat. The briefing given to players is a call to arms. A local council reveals that human smugglers have sold weapons to a tribe of lizardfolk, and they offer a 5,000 gold piece bounty to neutralize what they call a savage threat. This setup was a calculated move by the designers. They knew players were conditioned by the monster manual to view these creatures as mindless targets, and they used the council's biased intelligence to bait the party into a fight. Reaching the lizardfolk lair is an ordeal. Players navigate a 10-mile hex crawl through the marshes, taking 8 hours of game time. The swamp is filled with insect swarms, with giant frogs, and hostile bullywugs. This environment is designed to drain the party's resources, ensuring they arrive at the fortress bruised, paranoid, and ready to draw their weapons. These tensions were engineered by Dave J. Brown and Don Turnbull of TSR's UK division. They wanted to see if players could look past their survival instincts to find a different solution. The trap is set. If the players follow their training and attack the first guard they see, they end up becoming the villains of the story. If the party pauses to observe the fortress, they see details that contradict their orders. They find nurseries filled with hatchlings and diplomatic envoys from other aquatic races like the merfolk. The lizardfolk are not an invading army. They are refugees led by Queen Othokind, who purchased the smugglers' weapons to defend her people against a militaristic empire of Sahuagin. This realization changes the player's primary objective. To succeed, they must now convince the lizardfolk that humanity is a trustworthy ally, rather than another threat. Because the mechanics of D&D were built for combat, a narrative shift wasn't enough. Brown and Turnbull had to actively modify the game's rules to make this peaceful resolution work within the system. First, they replaced the traditional linear funnel dungeon with a non-linear ring topology. This layout mimics a real military base. It allows players to bypass sentries and enter different quarters, making it possible to talk to political factions without fighting through every room. Next, they addressed the XP problem. In standard play, characters only level up by killing monsters or taking their treasure. The designers changed the reward system, instructing DMs to award full experience points for any treasure the players found, and then chose to return to the queen as a gift of peace. They also introduced a mechanic based on historical tribal law called the weregild. This blood price allowed players who had accidentally killed a guard to pay a steep financial restitution to the queen. It functioned as a bailout, allowing peace talks to continue even after a violent misunderstanding. By adjusting the maps, the in-game economy, and the reward system, the designers essentially retooled a wargaming engine into a tool for geopolitical negotiation. This design created a unique paradox. If the players are observant and negotiate a peace treaty at the front gate, they end up skipping more than half of the dungeon's content. It leads to a persistent debate among players. Some see skipping the dungeon as a role-playing victory, while others argue that leaving half the book unplayed is an inefficient way to deliver a product. Historians call this the Star Trek dilemma, because the paths through the module reflect the different philosophies of science fiction commanders. You can follow the aggressive path and treat the lair as a hostile target, or you can choose the route of cultural immersion, respecting taboos and building an alliance through diplomacy. In 2019, Wizards of the Coast acknowledged this influence by updating the entire trilogy for the 5th edition of the game, ensuring these 30-year-old diplomatic mechanics remained part of the official canon. Danger at Dunwater proved that a dungeon could be a sovereign state rather than a shooting gallery. It remains a reminder that the most significant victories in a campaign are often the ones won with a conversation instead of a sword.